Hey, how's everybody today? YouTube, Facebook, the world. Hello. Hey, Tim.
Hey Candy, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So what's been
It's
happening with you? You know you're always busy.
it's Friday, first of all, and this week has gone by really, really fast.
Hmm.
And I just kind of been managing a couple of projects, just kind of get some things going, working with some uh, nonprofits that are dealing with kids going back to school. So
Hmm.
that's been exciting. Um, and we got a technical issue. So what's been going on with you? How was your week?
Busy. Always trying to manage multiple things and projects, as well as having time to think deeply and think forward and be creative. It's an ongoing process, but it's been a productive week.
That's good. That's good. Um, did you realize that summer was over?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't get the memo.
Yeah, I think I told Belinda yesterday. I was like, so, we're at the end of August. So it's fall. We're in fall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we really are.
I can feel it
Well,
because
technically we have another month, but it's like when the kids go back to school,
to
it
me,
becomes fall.
exactly. And so I'm dealing with
Yeah,
some sinus issues, which always tells me that season.
indicates the change of weather,
Yes. Yeah.
change of season.
Hmm.
hmm Well, listen, y'all. What's hot on the circuit today? This is the big question. This is my. I feel like my call to fame is to encourage people to live their best lives. So today, the big question is, what would you do if you had no restrictions or no limitations? So we're going to talk about that, what it looks like, and we're going to talk to some people that have literally took that leap of faith, stepped out, and made some changes in their lives and what they did, how they did it. We're going to talk about all that today. Coach Tim is co-hosting with me today, and he's going to um, kind of give us some nuggets of how we can work through that. Those of us that haven't answered that question, I answered the question many years ago, and I will tell you it hasn't been easy, but it's been so peaceful. So I'm not going to talk about myself today because I could have my own show talking about my own life and how I answered this question. But today I'm going to focus on our guest. So I'm excited about that. Tim, you excited?
I'm very excited. I'm always excited about hearing stories about people moving forward and giving opportunities to kind of push people out into the deep.
Yeah, yeah. So this is going to be good. I hope you're ready. Have your questions and comments ready so that you can drop them in the chat. If you're following us on Facebook or haven't followed us, watching us on Facebook, make sure that you're following thecircuitlive.com. Um, be sure to like this post. Feel free to share it. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel and, of course, like this video. So we're excited to be here today. One of our guests is having some technical issues. So if you see me keep looking down, I'm talking back and forth with her um, thanks, Shantice, for being excited with me. I'm talking back and forth with her, trying to get her on. So she is coming on and will be live with us shortly. But we're going to start today with um, the owner, the operator, the chief chef of the Secret Rose. And I'm going to bring in Raisa Steplight Hunter to join us. Hey,
Hey,
Raisa.
hi there. How are you?
Um, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Friday. I'm happy it's Friday.
Yeah, yeah. I got a lot of work to do this weekend, so it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I'm still working. And
Right.
Tim, I know you still working too. So
Always. Hey, Racer.
yeah.
Hey, Tim.
So Raisa, real quickly, before we get into our question and purpose versus passion, I want to ask you this quick question. Now, with everything going on with COVID, you and the Secret Rose, how have you guys been doing?
We have been steady. Fortunately, people need to eat. And because of the current situation, in the beginning, there was a lot of apprehension about going to the grocery stores. But I was a trooper going out there, still preparing weekly meals for clients. And so that has kept, the weekly meal prep has definitely kept a Secret Rose going for the past 5 months. And I also work for a school, a private Montessori school in Hateville. And they decided, because their numbers and community so small, they decided to return for the summer. And so I've been in the kitchen. I didn't really have a break. So I've definitely been in the kitchen these past 5 months.
So let's talk about the kitchen. So I remember, I don't know how many years ago it's been, so you could tell this story. But we had a conversation around this question, the big question. And that was, what would you do if you had no limitations or restrictions? So I'm going to let you tell everyone kind of how you left marketing. See, I'm trying not to tell anything, but you left a marketing career and moved into the Secret Rose. And everybody doesn't know what the Secret Rose is, and I'm not saying it on purpose. So you can give everyone kind of the full story.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a creative by nature. And so I've always had a passion for writing in particular. And so went to college here in Atlanta. I'm from Savannah. So I came to Atlanta in 2006 and went to college, did my 4 years down in Morrow at Clayton State. I had a journalism degree. The last 2 years of college, I did a few internships with magazine company, a couple small writing firms, and landed a job with a church as a marketing intern. And so I said, okay, this is looking up. I really wanted to move to New York, work in the fashion industry for magazine editing. After my short internship at a magazine company, I was like, nah, that's not really what I thought. Not what I thought it was going to be. So definitely working for the church was a great opportunity because super creative church, into tech, into creative video. So I was able to grow there and expand my knowledge and experience from what I learned in school. And so did that, move from internship to part-time, in the midst of part-time to full-time, got engaged, got married, had a baby. And my daughter was turning 1, and it was about 7 years I had been working, and I was comfortable. Had probably gotten a little too comfortable and complacent, and I got the boot. The church hired a third-party marketing firm, which we have been working with for about 2 years, and they decided that it was time for them to go full-blown just with one company, and essentially kind of cut back a little bit and direct the dollars to one place that could do a lot more than one person. And so here I was, new baby. Literally, she was like a year old. My husband had just started working for a new company. And so he was fresh at his job. And I'm like, man, I wasn't planning for this. Was not how I envisioned. And so in the midst of all of this, my family makes fun of me all the time because they call me Jamaican. And I don't really know if that's true about Jamaicans of having multiple jobs. I don't even know if that's offensive to them. But I don't know either. I've never only had one job. From college, even before college, I've never only had one job. I've always had like a side hustle of doing something else. So in the midst of me working for the church, in the midst of me interning, in the midst of me doing all that, I always either had a server or a retail job. And so the year I decided to let all the other jobs go is the year I got laid off from this job I had been working for 7 years. And so now I'm really questioning, like, see, this is always why you gotta have something else going on. You can't just be focused on one thing. But I truly value that time. It was about 11 months that I didn't work. Fortunately for my husband, this company had just started working for, was a new startup tech company, and he was doing good. He was moving up the ranks fast. He went from just an employee to manager to director in like a couple years. And so we were comfortable enough for me to sit at home. And I was also fortunate enough to have the time home with my daughter. The one good thing happened out of all that, I potty trained her in 2 weeks. So that was, I guess, a plus in the beginning. But then, of course, it gets old. I'm not a sit down, stay at home person. I am always on the go doing something. And so it was just kind of questioning, what's my purpose? I've always had something in the back pocket, but now I don't. And I really didn't want to go back to having the multiple jobs because your schedule is always inconsistent. The money is kind of inconsistent. You don't really get to plan weekends and holidays because if you're off here, you're probably working over there. Mm-hmm. And so it was my time to really kind of just settle down and sit still. Mm-hmm. And I decided, and so this all happened, this life-changing moment for me happened in May of 2015. No, I'm sorry. 2016. And I'm like, you know what? I've always loved to cook. And in the midst of all these years and different things and working in the restaurant industry for about 7-8 years, pick up knowledge here and there. I thought about going to culinary school. I was like, all right, so I got the time. I'll go to culinary school. And I don't know how many people can say this, but fortunately, I went to college on scholarships. So I didn't come out with any student loans. Okay. And I'm looking at culinary school like, this is probably not a smart idea, going to school, you're not working. And so I just kind of started self-teaching, just doing little small things here and there, inviting people over for dinner. Hey, come on over, I got a new recipe I want to try. I want to host an Italian night, or I want to host a Southern night. And, just having people over and just experimenting in the kitchen like that. And so September rolls around. It's the 1-year anniversary of us moving into a new house. And it's Labor Day weekend. So typically, most people are off and looking for something to do. And I'm like, I'm going to have a pizza party. I'm going to throw this pizza party and it's going to be like Little Italy in the backyard. Right? And so all the family comes over, friends come over, Candy, you was there. And I'm sitting at the table and I literally have like these picnic tables. And only thing I was missing was the string lights. That's the only thing I was missing. I ordered 00 flour that only comes from Italy to make my crust. Like I was legit. I was in it. And my uncle and father-in-law are sitting down and they're like, so what are you doing? And I'm like, what you mean? Y'all not enjoying yourselves? What's going on? They're like, no. What are you doing? You have the energy, the time, the talent to plan a pizza party for your family and friends. Why don't you have a food truck? Why don't you have a brick and mortar building? Why don't you have anything that's clearly a passion of yours and you really love to do? And I was like, you know what? Y'all are right. And I thought about it. And now let me back up. I skipped a very important part. So about 8 months of being at home doing nothing, my husband kind of looks at me one day and is like, ask the same question. So what you do? Are you going to plan anything? Are you going to be looking for anything time soon? And I'm like, well, I'm doing some freelance work here and there, using my graphic skills here, using my marketing skills over there. And, just keep passing the time. And my cousin is working for a Chatcom, which is a 911 operating. And so I go into an interview. It's this long, drawn out 2-month process. And I get the job. And they're like, yeah, you have the demeanor. You can totally rock this job. And I get there. And this is literally 2 weeks before this pizza party. And they're looking at me. I mean, I'm looking around the room like, man, these people have really been here on this job for a long time. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with 911 operating rooms or floors, but it's a very cold environment. And when I say cold, I mean physically, and just emotionally and mentally. You literally have to separate yourself from any type of emotional anything to be able to do the job well and function. And so I'm looking at all these complacent people sitting in this room who've been here for this job 10, 15 years. And I'm like, nah, I can't work my way up the ranks in here. Like, what am I doing? And so after pizza party, Monday was a holiday. Tuesday, I sent them a resignation. I was like, I appreciate your opportunity, but this is not for me. I went in that afternoon because they was like, we kind of knew it was coming, but we appreciate your professionalism and you giving us the time that you did. And I went in, and the supervisor on the floor, she said, I was surprised that you took this job. She said, because looking at your resume and listening to you and just watching you, this is not your world. And she, of course, gave me best of luck and happy wishes on anything to come. And I went the next day and applied for my business license.
Nice.
Sat down with a friend. We had like a 2-week intervention where we wrote down a business plan, what the Secret Rose was going to be, the purpose, the passion behind it, what I was going to offer people. And the Secret Rose was born. And the name, my name means rose. Raisa means rose in 2 or 3 different languages. And the intent of behind the company is, I always was fascinated with supper clubs. Are you guys familiar with supper clubs? Mm-hmm. You have to do like these secret dinner parties that you have to get this invitation only to. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'm gonna start a secret dinner party. I'm gonna be all around Atlanta. People gonna be like, man, where are they? What are they doing? Sure. And that's where the Secret Rose name came from. Mm. But the greater need was for people like Candy, who are busy. Raisa, can you make me some lunch this week? What can you come up with this week to help me get through and not have to worry about food? That's one less thing on my plate. Mm-hmm. And so the greater need became meal prep. The greater need became small event catering. They didn't really want a whole lot, but they just wanted something different other than the typical wings and meatballs and pasta salad type thing. And so that's here I am 3 years later. May of this year, I celebrated an anniversary silently to myself at home. I should have posted it and did all the jazz.
Yes, you should have.
But I'm working on something else. And so, here I am.
So, Raisa, one of the things that's so exciting about you and what you did, following that November, I started the circuit. And remember, I initially came to you to talk about helping me with the marketing and all of that. And after we started talking, we had the conversation again about the big question. And you said the same thing. I'm working on something. Because remember, you never told me the name.
I did.
But I said, you have, what I found out about you at that pizza party, people don't understand. It wasn't just a pizza party, Tim. She didn't order pizzas from Papa John's or even Oz. She made flatbread from the flour she ordered from Italy or wherever you got the flour from, and they literally put them on the grill.
Yeah.
And you had stations where you could build out what you wanted. Just everything was just uniquely planned out. And I watched her over the next few months making everything from scratch. So you don't find that all the time, especially with, big catering. And what I told Raisa was, you're not a caterer, you're a chef.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as we started talking and I was getting ready for the first circuit, mm-hmm. and I said, would you do some small bites for the circuit? And everybody was I don't even know if you came out, but everybody was like, who is this? Who made this? Remember, we had the whole apple theme because it was fall. Yeah. And she made all these different apple treats. And so it was some passion behind it. And today we're talking about, for those that are just joining us, we're talking about passion versus purpose, or passion and purpose, and asking yourself the big question of, what would I do if I had no stipulations or no limitations? And this is huge. It's a huge question for people that not only ask yourself the question, but then start to walk in those steps. So I've surrounded myself with quite a few people that are doing just that. I did it and have asked myself the question over and over again to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And God just always aligns everything. Yep. So just like Race's job and leaving one job and going to another job that still wasn't right. And it was no coincidence that you left all your side hustles and then your job laid you off, then going to another position that was not right for you, because God was lining up everything to give you the peace and joy that you were asking for by offering you the opportunity to feed people. And we all know that food brings joy to people. It's not just the food that you eat, but what happens around food is fellowship. Mm-hmm. Why you think we have stuff in the fellowship hall at church all the time, and it's got to be some food with it, you know? So there's something about communing. What you say, Tim? You about to preach about the Last Supper?
No. Oh, no. I do want to say, though, that I think it's important, and I often teach when people are, we got this mindset that we're looking for our purpose. Mm. And what I teach in that is kind of countercultural, because it's not our purpose. It is God's purpose, but it's our gifts and our talents. Yeah. His purpose, our gifting. And so what happens is your creative gifting married a passion and a liking for cooking. And it just kind of brought it all together. You know what I mean? And so his purpose becomes a little bit greater. But I do think there is still something left for this secret supper club. We're going to talk about that in a minute. There's something, because that was the original thought. And often our ideas bloom like a rose, but that anchor of the rose is still there. So there's still something left in that supper club. And we're going to talk about a book that I'll give you maybe to read if you haven't heard about it. But anyway.
Okay.
What's next?
What's the name of the book again?
I ain't saying
it.
Oh.
You want me to say it now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can tell us again, but I want to know the name of the book.
It's called Contagious. Why Things Kept Up. And it's by
I've heard of it. I have heard of it.
Yeah, so what he the book called The Tipping Point. The Tipping Point is by Gladwell, Malcolm Gladwell. Very scientific. What Jonah has done, Jonah has taken that scientific part, put it more practical. And he talks about how things blow up and become viral. And so it made me think about your supper club, because it's underground. And he talks about the notion of exclusivity draws people in.
Yes, that's fact.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to read. He talks about how what's the big blender, the Blendtec, or what's the other blender everybody uses? Who?
The NutriBullet, the Vitamix.
I think it's either Vitamix or Blendtec. He talks about how it got to be so big. And it didn't start by being a blender. What made it popular was the guy who built it was trying to destroy it. And the way he tried to destroy it was keep putting things in it to tear it up. But it never broke down. And so his marketing guy, who had left a 6-figure job to come to work with a guy who didn't even have a budget, started videoing it, put it on YouTube, and it went viral. And people kept saying, hey, put this in there, put this in here. And this is how the Blendtec became so popular.
Wow.
That's amazing. So yeah, that's a great book to read, Contagious. Why?
Definitely.
So for people that
Jonah Berger, yep. Berger. Jonah.
I'm sorry, Kenny.
No, our other guest is having some technical problems, and I'm still trying to figure that out. And she's working on it and trying to get back. And the amazing thing about her, so let me tell you, today is purpose, because Rachel was there when I started the circuit, but Deirdre, who we're trying to make sure that she can get on. If not, we'll have a part 2 in a couple of weeks and bring her back. But I was having a conversation with her, and she was the one that reminded me about the big question. And so she tells her story, or she's going to tell her story about how how all of that came to play for her. But one of the things that in talking with both of you, and my friend Kim is on, and Kim's going to come on another day. She's the local celebrity on the circuit. But we talk about all the time how, you know, you answer the question and you start working in your purpose and passion, but is it always easy? Does it just happen, you know, overnight? So Raisa, tell us maybe some of the things that and for you, it may have. Everything may have been really easy, but I know for me, I've tried some things that didn't quite work out right and pivoted. I didn't redo, but I redid, if that makes sense. You know, I'm still on my purpose, but I opened myself to understanding there are different ways to do things. So maybe share with us some of the things that you, maybe some stumbling blocks. Maybe you had some, maybe not.
Yeah, definitely. In the kitchen, things are always evolving. And time is one of my biggest enemies every single day. How can I maximize my time? How can I make the most of preparing 10 meals to have done by tomorrow? That kind of thing for 4 different families. And so one of the biggest things I had to learn, maybe just up until last year, is being comfortable telling people no. Not accepting.
Say that again for Candy.
In all honesty, our business is a good business. Like I'm grateful and I'm thankful for the exposure and the opportunity and people, you know, referring and saying this. But, you know, everybody you can't cook for everybody because what you do doesn't necessarily please their palate. And I had to be comfortable with that. In the beginning, I was a very emotional chef. I was very attached to my food. I didn't want you to touch a condiment or a salt or pepper. You need to taste it first before you start adjusting it. But I had to let that go. And one of the other big things I had to learn too is downsizing, offering a whole lot, wanting to do a whole lot, and it either doesn't come out in the end for the money, or it takes me too much time to get it done. And so while I still make a lot of things from scratch, I found some ways to incorporate and make the most of my time, and not really focus so much on, they have to know that I made every salad dressing from all the ingredients in my house. And, you know, it's some things that just you can overdo because you have to know your client, and you just have to know what opportunity warrants your real, like Tim said, your real special gifts and talents. And so that for me has probably been the biggest thing, just downsizing and managing time, cutting back on some things, particularly with meal prep. I don't know if you noticed, if it's the website, I used to offer 3 to 4 different menus, 5 different options, and clients would order 10 meals, and I was making 10 individual meals every week for them, just because I'm all about variety. You know, most meal prep things are chicken, salmon, you know, and I'm just like, who wants to eat salmon and chicken every week? Like, nobody wants to do that. But clients really do want to do that. The point of meal prep is they want it to be easy and convenient. It doesn't necessarily have to be all fancy and different every day. And so just overcoming just timing issues and scheduling things, and not having to do so much all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing for me.
That's good. That's good. And I think it's always important for people to understand that when you begin that purpose walk, and that it's not going to be easy per se. You know, everything will fall in place, but it doesn't fall in place the way that you think it's going to fall in place. So there are often some stumbling blocks. So Tim, we have a question for you about the book. She says Contagious by Jonah Berger, inspired to.
It's called.
Is there a second part?
It's called It's called Contagious. Why Things Catch On.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. So our second guest is here.
Yay.
And I'm smiling because she's literally been working at this for like 30 minutes. And so I'm gonna bring her in. So this is the delegate, y'all. And this is not why we're here today. And so we're gonna have to talk about this, Deirdre, on another day. But Deirdre was a delegate for the DNC this week.
Whoa, kudos.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
People.
It was an honor and a privilege. Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here today on the esteemed Circuit Live.
Thank you. So I kind of shared some things about you earlier, Deirdre, and how this particular segment was inspired. So when I started the circuit, it was all about encouraging people to live their best lives, to live out their purpose, to encourage them, to empower them, and to educate. So every episode, whether live and now virtual, would bring you something different, but would also bring you something in hope to help. And I'm really big on storytelling because I feel like it is through storytelling that we help each other, that we encourage one another. And so Tim, being the awesome coach that he is, I wanted to bring him on to help those that haven't answered the question yet or those that are in the midst of it. But Deirdre, actually, what was that, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were talking, and you began to tell me when you were first asked that question. And it just literally almost brought me to tears because it circled back to why I do what I do. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't even realize when we talked about the date that this was the week of the DNC. And so I thank you so much because I know you've had a strenuous week, but I do thank you for taking the time out to share with us today. So we're just going to jump right in and we want you to tell us your story.
Okay. Thank you again. I'm Deirdre Query. My story kind of goes like this. Right at 40, which was right on time, life just kind of got topsy-turvy. And so I went to do some sofa sitting. I went to visit a nice therapist, very nice lady. And one day, we were in session, we're going in about life or whatever. And so she asked me, she says, Deirdre, what would you do if you had no limitations? And I sat there and I was troubled. I couldn't answer the question. So we ended session the day. I go home, couldn't think of anything. And I got frustrated because every time I thought of something, it had a limitation. And that was frustrating. And I think that's what she was trying to show me. So I relaxed. And when I relaxed, I said, if I had no limitations, I would write and direct movies and I would live a bohemian lifestyle. Just like that. And I went back to my appointment and we talked about it. And it really wasn't what I came up with that she was looking for. She was looking for me to understand that I had placed limitations on myself. Whether taught, whether learned, whether conformist behavior, societal, everything I thought of for myself had limitations, whether it was age or I didn't want to go back to school or I didn't want to move across the country or just, and a lot of times it was age, or I've already done that. I don't want to go back. But when I relaxed, that's what it was. So for me, so what happened after that, literally, I got up. It was like, I thought it, I spoke it. So the next move I had to do it. And I started looking for classes. I was like, oh, I'll just take a film class. And the next thing you know, I had ventured over to Georgia State. And then I didn't find anything. So I was talking to a friend of mine and he said, Georgia State has a film program. I said, I didn't find it. He said they have one. I was looking in the wrong department. It was in the Department of Communications. So that night, quick, dared myself. I was like, if they take all my credits, I go. So super, super fast, majority school. 3 weeks later, I got an envelope and they don't even let you open it. It said, congratulations on the outside. And I had been accepted to film school. That literally, I think that conversation was in March. I was accepted by end of March and I started school that August. And, some of us are just overachievers just because. So I walked in on paper a junior, right? So I didn't just go and, knock it out. I had to get a degree. I couldn't just take the class now that I saw how easy it would be just to get a degree because I was already a junior on paper. So I dragged that out for 3 years. I would go down to Georgia State about twice a week. I would take 2 classes, go down there, have fun. And I let myself be free because I'll never forget when I had to show up for transfer student orientation. And I'm downtown like, I'm with these kids, I'm taking IDs and, so my first film class was an aesthetics class, So these young people, they have been at home, doing their videos with phones and stuff. And they would be like, that's a high shot. That's a low shot. That's a wide. That's mise-en-scène. And they would be just spouting all this stuff. I wouldn't say a mumbling word. Okay. I'm 40 years old in that class and I was intimidated, but I let myself feel it. I let myself feel it because I was happy. I had a book bag, went and got me some appliques and put me some butterflies on the back. I'd be riding the shuttle. I had a good time. I really did. And I found out things I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with film. Film is part psychology. I was a marketing psychology. I was a marketing major. So everything connected. Next thing you know, I'm in there. Those kids are teaching me. We would be in the lab and then we show our stuff. And then graduation came. 3 years came just like that. They were in there happy. I'm in there crying because it was over. And I really was. I was playing with them, but I was so sad because it was over and I had enjoyed that part of my life again. And so what I did is, to sum it up, I started moving my things around. I put my MBA to use. I had already been teaching online. I was like, I need to run off and play filmmaker, but I need full-time employment income. So I was like, I need to get into the University of Georgia system. I can teach at Georgia Perimeter, Chattahoochee Tech, So it took me about, that part of the plan, it took me about 9 months to get into the University of Georgia system. I was hired by Chattahoochee Tech, and how divinely inspired, I filled out. I was doing constructive procrastination. I was supposed to be doing something else one night. I call it constructive procrastination. So yeah, I just started shooting off teacher resumes. I sent like 30 off, like, next thing you know, Tech, I got an invite from their IS department to teach Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Then I got an invite from their business department to teach HR management. I was like, look at this. And so I was ready. I was running off to be filmmaker, and I did. I got about 2 blocks. And then I came home and I'm serious. I got about 2 blocks and my grandmother got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I decided, I didn't have to, I decided to come home and what can you do? So anyway, that's the but I got back. I'm from Milwaukee, got back to Milwaukee in time to be a founding member of our Black Lens Council here, which is like, our film network. John Ridley opened up a studio here. John Ridley, American Crime, 12 Years a Slave, quite a bit of work. So he has a studio here and I'm a member. And so I kind of do my film thing that way. I've gotten really active. And so I'm back to writing. I have 2 feature-length films, about 6 shorts and 2 treatments.
Nice.
And so, thank you. So where I am right now is I am seeking representation. That's my next goal, to get representation. So I'm actually enrolled in a class on Saturday. Hollywood is turning up. BLM, George Floyd, he saved the world. Hollywood is even talking about y'all need to hire more Blacks. So you got a network of people that literally, they were like, we're going to put all the Black people who are in Hollywood on this one database, and we're going to set y'all up with TV writers. Oh, you want to talk to a TV writer? You get a 30-second virtual coffee. So I've been doing a lot of stuff like that.
Great.
And so that's
it's amazing. So you answered both of my questions all together. And that is what we last talked about, is how sometimes the road is not straight. And what you say, Deirdre? And that's exactly, how it takes some turns. And I am so grateful to God that you did not allow that to stop you, because I remember when you made the decision to move back to Milwaukee to take care of your grandmother, but you still pushed through and look at opportunity. Who would think that there were film opportunities in Milwaukee? I would.
Right.
John,
see how God does things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I think the other thing is, before you got back there, you took the time that you had wherever you were to get ready. And I tell people all the time that you can't get ready when it's time to be ready. This is the moment where you be ready, and you were.
Yes. Thank you. Thank
you. I really feel like right now, during this quarantine time, or lack of quarantine that some people are doing, through the pandemic, it's time to get ready. So I don't know what your get ready is, but it's time to get ready, and I'm talking to myself too. I know for me, it's time to get ready to go to the next level. And sometimes you get stuck at the level where you are, and you don't concentrate enough or take the time to build out what's going to happen next.
Sure.
So yeah, thank you. Tim.
Yes.
Give us something.
You listen, there is so much happening right here on this screen. I think as to your last comments, you are 100% right. This is our time. If I may be very direct and harsh, I will say this: you are a fool if you do not come out of this time better. As a Black person in America, you are a fool if you do not take advantage of the season and the climate we are in. So, you got to be present. We got to stop scrolling and get better. And so that's been my whole thing during quarantine is we should be getting better. We should be saving more money. We should be thinking forward. Our thinking, we need to be thinking deep, and we need to be thinking forward. And so those are things that needs to be happening here. And it's not too late. It's not too late to get better from this quarantine. But let me tell y'all what I got. So I got a million thoughts. And here's what I did, though. From both stories, here's what I did. I jotted down about 5 things, maybe 6 things that will help anybody who is ready to answer this question. The question of, if you did not have any limitations or any barriers, what would you be doing? Okay. And I'm so glad, Deirdre, that you went to the couch and had the couch time. And I think any therapist, any coach that's worth their weight in gold are going to ask powerful questions, because that is what that was. That was a powerful question. And it was a question that had residual results, because it wasn't just for the couch in that office, but you went home and started thinking. So that is important. And it's a freeing question, because we oftentimes, and I said this to Candy last night, I've just been having this conversation this week about whether we climb the corporate ladder or we climb our ladder, that we should have a ladder. We should be designing where am I going? And although I may work in corporate America, maybe you're not trying to go the corporate route or the corporate ladder, but you need the experience and you need the relationships and connections. So you need to be able to be in one space and connect that to your ladder. The problem is we get into jobs and we get handcuffed, and we feel like this is what I got to do. And if it pays well, we call them the golden handcuffs. And so some people are happy with golden handcuffs because they're gold. We use them like accessories, but no, they are boundaries. Even though it's gold, it's still boundary. It may have a 6-figure salary attached to it, but if it's not the ladder that you should be on, it becomes a boundary. Okay, so we got to be willing to order our lives, establish our lives in such a way that we know what our ladder is. And so if you're in corporate America, or if you're working a job, you got to be able to say, I'm not trying to climb this ladder. I'm trying to get the knowledge. I'm trying to make the connections, and I'm going to bring all that to my ladder and go up my ladder, because my ladder may not be in this industry. but there's something here that I could get. So that's that. And particularly the young people, if we think about where we want to go and structure our lives, we don't get caught up in, oh, I got 6 figures here and I got to stay at this job. We can really start building our lives to go where we want to go if we structure our lives that way. But based on what you all said, Risa said this. She said, Raisa, I'm gonna call her Rose because I love it. Rose says this. You said, I got too comfortable. And understand this, as much as we want to be comfortable, comfortability can be an enemy. And so when we get too comfortable, we stay where we should be going. And many of us are guilty of staying too long in one place. Okay, here's what nature teaches us. When a mother bird knows that it's time for her baby to fly or to learn how to fly, the nest that they have built, they have intentionally added uncomfortable things inside of the nest. And when they build them, they turn them down. But when it's time for the bird to be uncomfortable, they turn them upward. So then that way the bird says, hey, something's going on here. It doesn't feel the same. And then they actually take the bird and drop him out of the nest. Because if the bird is going to fly, the bird has to be uncomfortable, and then they need to learn how to fly. So we can't get too comfortable, because being comfortable can be the enemy. It limits our growth. It limits our forward thinking. So you talked about that. I think that's great. The other thing, Rose, that you said was your people, your friends, your uncle, your father-in-law, and even your husband asked you a hard question. What are you doing? See, those are questions that I think are valuable if they make us think. So one question was, what are you doing? You've done a fantastic job. What are you doing with this? The other question is, hey, we need to move life forward. What are you going to do? You're going to go get a job? What are you going to do?
That's a fact.
You see, and so both questions, and the same question in different categories. One, what are you doing with this creativity? And then the other is, how are we going to get better? What are you doing to make us better? You see? And so being able to have people who will ask the hard questions, that's important if you're going to move forward and kind of what I like to say, launch out into the deep. And I know we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm rushing.
Don't rush today. I'm not going to worry you about time. You don't have to rush.
Okay. So Deidre said it was the right time. It was the right time. You said that you started dealing with some stuff or going to counseling, and it was just the right time for it. Remember this, time is your friend. And so we got to be okay with certain seasons that we're in, that really, it's those seasons that drop us out of the nest, that makes us get wings so we can fly into a different direction. Does that make sense? So time is your friend, and the seasons of life that we're in, if we're mature, if we stop complaining and stop trying to run away from discomfort, that season in life could be a moment that could help you move forward in the direction you need to go in. All right, it was just the right time. And we could talk about all of that. So here is another question. Oh, here's another thing that Deidre said. She said that her counselor asked her if she didn't have those boundaries, what she would do, right? But then I heard Deidre say that when she applied for the Georgia State program, she said, if they take my credits, then I'll go. Okay, so I think if is very powerful, but we have to be careful, because one if launched her into the next. You know, what would you do if you didn't have boundaries? But the other if that she brought to herself could have been limiting, because she said, if they take it, I'll go. Well, suppose they didn't. The first if should have still been bigger than the second one, because the second if brought about a comfortability. Because here's what the stuff we say. We'll say, well, if this doesn't work out, it wasn't God's plan. Says who? Because we think everything God ordains is easy. When did he tell you that? I mean, come on. Just because it's easy doesn't mean it's not God, and it doesn't mean it is God. But the if still works, and we just got to be careful of the if. But the if that launches us forward is the if that we need to embrace. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 5 from Deidre is enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey, because regardless of the end game, if you don't have fun on the journey, so we got one group of people in her story was happy because the journey was over, but she was crying because the journey was over, because she enjoyed the journey. Because here it is. If you enjoy the journey, your journey becomes the classroom. You understand? So we often want to get to the end result because we think that's the outcome, but really the journey is the outcome. That's the outcome. The journey is your victory. We got victories, we got mile markers, we got successes, we got failures, all of that in the journey. So he's like, I'm ready for this to be over. She says, no, I'm learning so much here, whether good or bad. I'm about to do, I got a thing coming up soon called By Design. And one of the things that I'm going to do in that is talking about the fact that my pain was designed. Because pain is all a part of the journey, the hard moments, the rough times, the failures. We like to talk about our successes, but we don't dissect our failure. We don't do an autopsy on our failures to get out of it what it's learned, what it should be teaching us, you know? So you enjoy the journey, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's okay. Here's number 6. So, it's the last one. Here's the last one. And then we can just kind of talk about them if you want. The last one, Deidre, you said when you got home, you said it. You said, I think you said you want to make films and live a bohemian lifestyle. And you said, when you finished that, you said, I said it. So here's the deal. When we talk about moving forward and getting into this right space, or the space we feel like we were designed and created for, I think what we say about that space is very important. Before you even walk in it, you got to say it. So you got to give it a name. You know what I mean? You got to give it. And so I think identifying a thing is very, very important. So if that's what she wanted to do, she said it. And when we say it, we get a picture toward it. And when we get a picture toward it, we'll start walking toward what we see. Here's the other thing about saying it. When it creates that picture and we're walking toward what we see, if it's not a part of what we said, we will not get distracted by what is not. Did we lose Candy? Y'all with me? I can't see.
Yeah, I don't know where she went.
Okay, so I'm assuming we're still live though. So saying it is important. Mm-hmm. And I think, saying I'm a chef is important. Because once we start identifying who we are, what we do, then everything that's supposed to line up with that will line up. One thing I did when I started coaching, I have been coaching for years, but I wasn't certified, and it's just in me to do. So I wasn't doing it within, let's say, the guidelines or the methodology of the industry. But when I stepped over into it, I had to realize when I got my first big contract, I had to realize this is who you are. So I said it, Tim, you're a coach. Before I got certified and finished the program, I said it, you're a coach. But here's the other thing I said. I also said, you are no longer in the hundreds, you are now living in the thousands. And not too long after that, because that was a thing, I had to start saying, oh, okay, you are now living in the 10,000s. Okay, here's my next move very quickly. You're living in the hundreds of thousands. That's where you're going, because saying where you're headed is important. Okay, somebody talked about saying no. I know that was you. That was you, Rose. Mm-hmm. That was you, Rachel. That was you. You talked about saying no. Let me tell you something. No is one of the most freeing words we could ever add to our vocabulary, but especially our business mindset. Mm-hmm. Because what I'm learning in life is that there's some money I can't afford to make. You see, there's some relationships that's not fun enough to have. And so you got to be able to say no to some stuff. All right. And so when you start saying no, and when you decide this is where I live, this is what I do, then anything that comes that cannot fit in here, I say no to. Now, if it's something that moves me forward and I need to be open to, that's one thing. But on the other side of that, we got to be willing to say no. And so we got to say it so then we can move forward. So that's it. Number one was don't get too comfortable. Number two was, what are you doing? You got to have the people that to ask the right questions. You got to be willing to answer it. Here's one thing that I'm on these days, and Candy's heard me say this a lot. You got to be okay with not knowing. And I like that about you, Deidre, is that when you heard it, Deidre, you was like, I didn't answer it right now. I had to go answer it later. Maybe you didn't know right then. And it's okay not to know, but be willing to get into a space and wrestle with what you can't answer at the moment. Don't let it fall off because it's uncomfortable. Wrestle with that thing. So number three is, I talked about it being right on time. The time is our friend. And number four is if. Deal with if, but don't let if limit you. And 5, enjoy the journey. Number 6, say it. All of that came just from their stories today as they were sharing.
Awesome.
You gonna send me the points?
They're on the screen.
I know.
So I think it's just so cool that all of that came from y'all. You guys you're teaching your story. And Candy started out by saying that she believes that stories are powerful. And so you're teaching us through your stories, through this journey that you're still on, but also through the successes and failures that you've had. You know, that whole story about the 911 call center, you got to wrestle with the fact that although it's paying me, it's not pushing me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's paying me, but it ain't pushing me up my ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be willing to say, nah, I got to leave this. Sometimes that's uncomfortable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Support system is important when we have to start wrestling right there. I'm hushing.
So we have some comments. No is a complete sentence. Yes, we have to remind each other of that all the time. I remember when my friend told me that a few years ago, and I just looked at her sideways. But I'm like, I'm learning that now. It took me a minute to get it. It took me a second. April says, the younger you are to grasp this concept, the younger you will be to become uncuffed and unleashed.
Yes. Yes. And we have to start teaching our younger generation now about structuring their lives so they can live free.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I had one of my sons, I think Kyle had a 4th grade teacher who said to him, you know, I'm trying to get this stuff in you guys so you can go and work for a great corporation and retire from them. While I appreciated the sentiment, I had to say to him, when Kyle said that to me, I said to the teacher, hey, I'm not teaching my boys to work for the corporation. I'm teaching them to be the corporation. I think because right now our gold watches like, you know, no more. He was a senior. The teacher was a senior, and I appreciate because like his history is phenomenal. But in today, what I'm raising, I want them to create the company,
right?
Not be the company. So we agree with that statement that we have to teach our young ones how to structure their lives so they're not attached to this corporate ladder structure.
So Deidre, I'm sorry, Raisa. I know you were late coming on because of some technical issues. So I wanted to circle back. Is there anything else you want to leave the people with today?
I would like to reiterate what Tim said. It was such a comfort for me, Tim, to hear you say, use this time to get ready. And Candy, you too. The words that I use is it's time to upgrade. Wherever you are, it's time to take it up. or get on with it, whichever one. But if you're no degree, no certificate, degree certificate. If it's after that, it's moving on to the next level, or it's identifying. It may be just even a clean slate, identifying what you want your life to look like post-COVID. Because believe you me, this world will have changed significantly.
Yes.
So As Tim said, Raisa, Candy, all of us are reiterating, this time is so precious, so valuable for you to recreate your life how you want it to be. And if you are at the wonderful ripe age where you can drown out the parents, how blessed you are. Because it's still difficult to do. I mean, they have an influence, and after a certain, you don't necessarily want to please them, but you do want them to be proud of you, especially when they talk to their friends. Nevertheless, sometimes if we have conventional parents that haven't grasped, like, hey, I can really go and make six figures in animation. I want to go make cartoons, mom. Mom has to be open to cartoons, or you have to be all right with mom being a little different for a little while. She'll come around. She will. And if she doesn't, you are all the way grown, and have at it. That's what I say.
And Raisa, you were saying something?
Well, Tim said something that I was struggling with when I started my business, about how you didn't have the credentials and the accreditations and all that of becoming a coach. And so for a long time, I didn't call myself a chef. And that's just, having friends who have gone through culinary school and spent 3-4 years and, worked their way up the ranks in the kitchens and all of that. It's definitely rewarding to work your way to a title. But the title doesn't necessarily define what you do. And so I had to be comfortable with working my way to my standards and expectations of being my own chef, and using my experiences and using my knowledge, and still learning culinary in just a different way, and not the traditional going to school in the kitchen kind of way.
Well, my phone says Chef Raisa. FYI.
Thank you.
Coach, for those that need reading material, need to go deeper in a different way. You mentioned a book earlier. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave the people with today?
I was just looking for, and I'm going to find it. Seth Godin has a book that speaks to, about this box that a lot of people say get out of the box, but he has a book that speaks to being inside the box. And Raisa mentioned it when she said she just brought her offerings down to a certain amount of things. That is a mindset, because sometimes we want to please the masses, and then we don't have the quality because we're offering so much. We got to be okay with just offering just enough. And see, here's the deal. When you learn how to offer just enough, you become a culture. Apple, BMW, it's a culture. And this is what we offer. And we try not to go outside of that, because this is who we are. So being able to say no and understanding constraints, that you can't service every palate, but you can service the palates who like what you like, and be okay with that. So I'm going to find the name of that book by Seth Godin. And
Poke the Box.
Yeah, Poke the Box. That's it.
Poke the Box.
Yes, Poke the Box. Poke the Box.
Poke the Box. And then what was the book you said earlier for those that may just be joining?
Contagious: How Things Catch On by Jonah Berger. And it just talks about how things go viral. And it is an outworking of the book, The Tipping Point, by Malcolm Gladwell, which is a great book too, but it's very intense reading. This Contagious just gives us more of a practical way of looking at things and understanding the psychology behind how things blow up.
Awesome. Well, listen, we're like way over our time today. So we thank you for sticking in there with us. This has been amazing. It's everything that I thought it would be today. So having the opportunity to share these awesome stories, to talk with you today, to read your comments. And if you still have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we can come back and answer those questions. So have a super great weekend, and make today a God day. So thanks for joining the circuit.
Have a great day.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.